The first time he told me my love would ruin him, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was ridiculous. How could something that felt so inevitable like breathing, like gravity destruction? But maybe he was right. Because the moment I kissed Noah on that abandoned baseball field behind our high school, I knew the universe had just shifted, and not in a way the rest of the world would forgive. It was a sticky summer evening in Ohio, the kind that smelled of cut grass and cheap beer. He was leaning against the chain-link fence, sweat glistening on his temple, his eyes a storm I couldn't walk away from. "Ethan," he whispered, my name breaking in half on his lips. "This can't happen." And yet, when my hand touched his, he didn't pull away. His breath hitched, his shoulders stiffened, but his fingers trembled against mine like he was both terrified and starving. Then came the kiss, clumsy, desperate, too much teeth and too little air. But it was real. It was the kind of kiss that stitched itself into your bloodstream and poisoned you forever. Afterward, he shoved me back. His chest heaved, his eyes wild. "You don't understand. Loving you will destroy me." But he was lying. Because even as he said it, his fist curled in my shirt like letting go would kill him. The days that followed were war. Not with the world, though the whispers and stares in our town were a slow, suffocating fire, but with ourselves. Noah lived in constant contradiction. By daylight, he was the All-American Golden Boy. Varsity baseball, polite smiles. The boy mothers wanted their daughters to marry. By night, when the weight of the world loosened its grip, he would sneak to my window, his shadow long and trembling, his mouth finding mine with a hunger that left me breathless. And every time he'd say it again, like a curse, like a prayer. "This will ruin me." Yet he never stopped coming back. I hated him for it, sometimes, for pretending I was poison when I was the only thing keeping him alive, for pushing me away in the cafeteria, in the hallways, when his friends jeered about girls and locker room bravado, for letting me feel like I was a secret he was ashamed of. But then I'd see him alone, sitting in his truck with his head in his hands, and I'd know. He wasn't ashamed of me. He was terrified of the world. And maybe I was too. One night in late September, when the air smelled like rain and endings, Noah showed up at my door drenched and shaking. His father had found out about us, about the nights, about the stolen touches, and it hadn't gone well. His lip was split. His voice was broken. "Ethan," he choked, collapsing into my arms. He said I'm not his son anymore. I held him as tightly as I could, my shirt soaking with his tears. My chest ached, not just from the pain of seeing him shattered, but from the sheer injustice of it. How could love, something so raw, so necessary, turn into a weapon that left scars you couldn't see? "I told you," Noah whispered, his voice hoarse. "I told you this would destroy me." I wanted to scream, to tell him he was wrong, that love wasn't the enemy, that hate was. But all I could do was cradle him like he might fall apart if I let go, and kiss his ruined mouth like it was the only truth that mattered. That night he stayed, not because it was safe, but because it was the only place he could breathe. And in the quiet hours before dawn, when his fingers traced lazy, broken patterns across my chest, he said something that made my heart fracture and heal in the same breath. "Even if it kills me, I can't stop. I can't stop loving you." The weeks after were a blur of hiding and surviving. My mother noticed the shadows under my eyes, the way my smile had sharp edges, but she didn't press. Noah walked the halls with bruises. He didn't explain, and a silence that scared me more than his father's rage ever could. But through it all, we clung to each other in secret corners, in the back seat of my car by the lake, in the woods where no one would follow, in the hollow of our own fear. We clung like drowning men sharing one breath. And maybe that's what we were. Because love, when the world calls it a sin, feels less like salvation and more like survival. Still, I'd take survival over emptiness any day. That winter, the first snow fell heavier than anyone expected. School closed, streets turned white, and the world seemed quieter, softer. Noah and I walked through the empty town at midnight, our footprints the only evidence we existed. "Do you ever think," I asked, breath fogging the air, "that maybe we could just leave? Start over somewhere no one knows us. His hand brushed mine. Hesitant. Hopeful. Do you think we'd make it? He asked. I turned to him, my chest aching with all the things I'd never said. I think you're the only thing keeping me alive. For a moment, under the pale streetlight, he looked like he believed me. He leaned in, snow catching in his lashes, and kissed me with a gentleness that hurt more than violence ever could. And for the first time, he didn't say love would destroy him. Noah never said it again. Not once. But silence has its own dangers. His father stopped speaking to him altogether. His friends started avoiding him like he was contagious, and I could see the weight of it pressed down on his shoulders every day. Some mornings, he wouldn't answer my texts. Some nights, he wouldn't come to my window, and I would lie awake wondering if he was slipping away, if the boy who once clung to me like I was oxygen was slowly learning how to suffocate. I tried to be patient. I told myself love meant waiting, meant forgiving the silences and the sharp words when the pain inside him had nowhere else to go. But there were nights I broke down too, nights I screamed into my pillow because I hated being his secret, hated feeling like we were both drowning and I wasn't strong enough to save us. The breaking point came one evening in March. I found him sitting in his truck outside my house, headlights off, hands shaking around the steering wheel. His eyes were hollow, and there was a bottle of whiskey on the seat beside him. Noah, I whispered, pulling the door open. What are you doing? He didn't look at me. His voice was flat, like he was somewhere far away. I don't know how much longer I can fight this, Ethan. I'm tired. I'm so damn tired. The fear that shot through me was worse than any bruise, any whispered slur in the hallway, worse than his father's rage. Because this wasn't the world breaking him, this was him breaking himself. I grabbed the bottle and hurled it into the darkness. It shattered, sharp and final. Then I grabbed his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. Listen to me. You don't get to give up. Not after everything. You said it yourself, you can't stop loving me. And I can't stop loving you. So if we're going to drown, then we'll drown together. But don't you dare leave me alone in this. Something cracked in him then. His body shook, his breath came in sobs, and he collapsed against me like every wall he built was finally crumbling. We sat there for hours, my arms wrapped around him, my shirt soaked with his tears, until the sky started to lighten. And that was when we made the decision that changed everything. We were leaving. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. The following week, we packed what little we could clothes, a box of photographs, the baseball glove his father had given him before everything shattered. My mother cried when I told her, but she hugged me anyway, whispering, "Go. Find somewhere you can breathe." We drove through the night, state lines blurring into each other, fear and hope tangling in our veins. For the first time, the road didn't feel like escape. It felt like possibility. We ended up in a small coastal town in Maine, where no one knew our names and no one cared if we walked hand in hand down the street. It wasn't perfect. Money was tight, jobs were scarce, and some nights the loneliness of starting over pressed heavy on us both. But there was freedom. There was sunlight on his face when he laughed without looking over his shoulder. There was warmth in waking up beside him without the fear of being caught. There was us. One evening, months later, we sat on the beach, the tide creeping closer to our shoes, the sky painted in streaks of pink and gold. Noah leaned into me, his blonde hair catching the last light of the day. "Do you still think my love will destroy you?" I asked quietly. He laughed, a sound so raw and soft it made my chest ache. "No, I think it saved me." I kissed his temple, my hand tightening around his. "Then we'll keep saving each other. Every day." He turned to me, eyes shining with something I hadn't seen in a long timepiece. And when he kissed me, slow and certain, I realized something. Love hadn't destroyed him. Love had rebuilt him. And maybe, just maybe, it had rebuilt me too. Years from now, when people ask how we survived, I'll tell them the truth. That it wasn't easy. That it wasn't fair. That some days felt like war and others like surrender. But in the end, it came down to Tishi said my love would destroy him, yet he held on to it like it was the only thing keeping him alive. And maybe he was right, because in the end, It wasn't destruction. It was resurrection. And it was ours. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.